की जाए। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाए। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाए। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर भक्ति भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाए। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर श्रील भक्ति विज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जाए। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जाए। नितिल विष्णु महाभागवत श्रील गोक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जाए। नितिल विष्णु श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाए। नितिल विष्णु वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जाए। श्री रूप गौरी गुरु वर्ग की जाए। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पतदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जाए। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गोपाल शारद वृंद की जाए। नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाए। प्रेम से गो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाए। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जाए। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाए। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाए। श्री मोहन देवी गंगा देवी की जाए। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाए। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. So this is the latest we've ever started. Luckily today's a short chapter. So and yeah, let me just open up this mobile chart. Yeah, the Wi-Fi wasn't working, and then all of a sudden, like since last night, it wasn't working, and then all of a sudden, it just started working. Okay. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Vedanta Narayana Namane. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Prabrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Vinedustam Sarva Putta Hridayam Munimanatosmi. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridantasta Hyabhadrani Vidhunoti Sritsatam. Nashta Prayashvavadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavaduttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Tavai vasmi na jivami tvaya vina. Iti vigyaya radhe tvam nayamang charanantikam. Bhaktya vihina paradalaksha ikshtastakama titarangamate. Kripamai tam sharanam prapana vrinde namaste charanaravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Alright, so in the previous chapter, I'm just going to go through this super quickly. We read about Vena's atrocities. For the welfare of the people, the sages enthroned Vena as king, despite the minister's disapproval. And then there's a description of Vena's pride, cruelty, and prohibition of religious activities. The sages thought, we should try to pacify the king, and if he does not listen, we will destroy him. Then the sages, they say to Vena, follow Dharma. This is good for you. Otherwise, you'll fall down from your royal position. The duty of a pious king is to satisfy the Supreme Lord by engaging everyone in their occupational duties. And they describe the qualities of the Supreme Lord. Satisfaction of the Lord leads to the satisfaction of the demigods. Then Vain's arrogant reply to the sages, the king is actually the Supreme Lord. Your affection to demigods is like an affection of an unchaste woman. The king is the reservoir of all demigods. Therefore, worship me with sacrifice. Then the sages kill Vena. Sunita preserves his dead body with mantras. The sages observe, they see disturbance in the kingdom. There's dust everywhere from all the thieves and rogues running around. And then the sages turn Vena's thigh and produce Bahuka. All right. Yeah, the sages decided that the dynasty of saintly Anga should not be stopped. As in dynasty, the kings were of unfailing strength and prone to become devotees of the Lord. Note, the purity of hereditary seminal succession in twice-born families is called Amoga Virya. This purity is because of observing samskars, or purificatory processes. Maharaj Anga was very pure, coming in the seminal succession of Dhruva Maharaj, but his semen was contaminated by the association of his wife Sunita, the daughter of death personified, due to which Vena was born. However, the ingredients by which another body can be produced were there in Vena's body. The sages knew the method of producing another body from it. Thus, they churned the thighs of Vena's dead body in a specific method, and a dwarf-like person named Bahuka was born. He was blackish, short, with short limbs and large jaws, a flat nose, reddish eyes, and copper-colored hair. He submissively bowed down and asked, "Sirs, what shall I do?" The sages replied, "Please sit." Thus he became the father of the Nishada race. Because of accepting the terrible sins of Vena on being born, Nishada's descendants are always engaged in sinful activities and reside in the hills and forests. Note, Vena's body was produced from both Anga and Sunita. The impure portion of Vena's body, resulting from Sunita, was separated by the sages in the form of degraded Bahuka. Now the pure portion of Vena's body, resulting from saintly Anga, will give birth to Maharaj Pṛthu. Right. Now we're reading about Pṛthu Maharaj. Yes, it works. Finally. Oh God. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 15. Thank God today's a very short chapter. So I think we'll still, even though I'm starting like half an hour late today, I think we'll still be able to finish everything. This is 3,900 words. So, okay. Maitreya Uvacha Hatatasya punarviprar aputrasya mahipate bahubhyam Matyamanabhyam Mitunam Samapadyata. The great sage Maitreya continued, "My dear Vidura, thus the Brahmins and the great sages again turned the two arms of Vain's dead body. As a result, a male and female couple came out of his arms. Tadrishtva mitunam jatam rishayo brahmavadina Uchu paramasantushta viditva bhagavat kalam. The great sages were highly learned in Vedic knowledge. When they saw the male and female born of the arms of Vena's body, they were very pleased, for they could understand that the couple was an expansion of a plenary portion of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 1 second. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The method adopted by the great sages and scholars who were learned in Vedic knowledge was perfect. They removed all the reactions of King Vena's sinful activities by saying that King Vena first gave birth to Bahuka, described in the previous chapter. After King Vena's body was thus purified, a male and female child came out of it, and the great sages could understand that this was an expansion of Lord Vishnu. This expansion, of course, was not Vishnu Tattva, but specifically an empowered incarnation of Vishnu known as Avesh. Shakti-Avesh. Rishaya Uchu Esha Vishnur-Bhāgavata Kala Bhuvana Palini Iyam Chalakshmya Sambhuti Purushasya Napayini. The great sages said, the male is a plenary expansion of the power of Lord Vishnu, who maintains the entire universe, and the female is a plenary expansion of the goddess of fortune, who is never separated from the Lord. Purport. The significance of the goddess of fortunes never being separated from the Lord is clearly mentioned herein. People in the material world are very fond of the goddess of fortune, and they want her favor in the form of riches. They should know, however, that the goddess of fortune is inseparable from Lord Vishnu. Materialists should understand that the goddess of fortune should be worshipped along with Lord Vishnu, and should not be regarded separately. Materialists seeking the favor of the goddess of fortune must worship Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi together to maintain material opulence. If a materialist follows the policy of Ravan, who wanted to separate Sita from Lord Ramachandra, the process of separation will vanquish him. Those who are very rich and have taken favor of the goddess of fortune in this world must engage their money in the service of the Lord. In this way, they can continue their opulent position without disturbance. Ayam tu pratamo ragyam puman pratayita yasha praturnama maharajo pavishyati Pṛthu shrava. Of the two, the male will be able to expand his reputation throughout the world. His name will be Pṛthu. Indeed, he will be the first among kings. Purport. There are different types of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Shastras it is said that Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva and Ananta are all very powerful incarnations of the Brahman feature of the Lord. Similarly, Sachipati, or Indra, the king of heaven, is an incarnation of the lusty feature of the Lord. Aniruddha is an incarnation of the Lord's mind. Similarly, King Pṛthu is an incarnation of the ruling force of the Lord. Thus, the saintly persons and great sages predicted the future activities of King Pṛthu, who was already explained as a partial incarnation of the plenary expansion of the Lord. Iyam chasudati devi guna bhushana bhushana archirnama vararoha Pṛthum eva varundati. The female has such beautiful teeth and beautiful qualities that she will actually beautify the ornaments she wears. Her name will be Archi. In the future, she will accept King Pṛthu as her husband. Esha shakshadhare rangsho jato loka rirakshaya iyam cha tatparahi shri anujagye napayini. In the form of King Pṛthu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared through a part of his potency to protect the people of the world. The goddess of fortune is the constant companion of the Lord, and therefore she is incarnated partially as Archi to become King Pṛthu's queen. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that whenever one sees an extraordinary power, he should conclude that a specific partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present. There are innumerable such personalities, but not all of them are direct Vishnu Tattva plenary expansions of the Lord. Many living entities are classified among the Shakti Tattvas. Such incarnations, empowered for specific purposes, are known as Shakti-Avesh avatars. King Pṛthu was such a Shakti-Avesh avatar of the Lord. Similarly, Archi, King Pṛthu's wife, was a Shakti-Avesh avatar of the goddess of fortune. Maitreya uvacha prashangsanti smatang vipra Gandharva pravara jagu Mumuchu sumanodhara seda nrityanti swastriya. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Viduraji, at that time all the Brahmanas highly praised and glorified King Pṛthu. The best singers of Gandharva Loka chanted his glories. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka showered flowers, and the beautiful women in the heavenly planets danced in ecstasy. Also, just one thing about Pṛthu and Archie marrying each other. I don't think it's the same as exactly because it's just Lord Vishnu marrying Lakshmi Devi, and they're eternally, consorts. So it's not. Anyways, I think that's clear. Shankaturya mridangadya nedur dundu bhayo divi tatra sarva upajagmur devarshi pitrinam kana. Conch shells, bugles, drums, and kettle drums vibrated in outer space. Great sages, forefathers, and personalities from the heavenly planets all came to Earth from various planetary systems. Dang it, there's a line missing. Give me a second. Database.io. We're in chapter what? Chapter 15. What verse? 9 to 10. Okay. Brahma Jagat Guru Devai Sahasrita Sureshwarai Vainyasya Dakshine Haste Drishtva Chinnam Gadabrita Padayoravindam Chatam Vaimene Hare Kalam Yasya Pratithatam Chakram Angshasa Parameshtina. Lord Brahma, the master of the entire universe, arrived there accompanied by all the demigods and their chiefs. Seeing the lines of Lord Vishnu's palm on King Pṛthu's right hand and impressions of the lotus flowers on the soles of his feet, Lord Brahma could understand that King Pṛthu was a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One whose palm bears the sign of a disc, as well as other such lines, should be considered a partial representation or incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Purport. There is a system by which one can detect an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nowadays it has become a cheap fashion to accept any rascal as an incarnation of God. But from this incident, we can see that Lord Brahma personally examined the hands and feet of King Pṛthu for specific signs. In their prophecies, the learned sages and Brahmins accepted Pṛthu Maharaj as a plenary partial representation of the Lord. During the presence of Lord Krishna, however, a king declared himself Vasudev, and Lord Krishna killed him. Before accepting someone as an incarnation of God, one should verify his identity according to the symptoms mentioned in the Shastras. Without these symptoms, the pretender is subject to be killed by the authorities for pretending to be an incarnation of God. Tasya Abhisheka Arabdo Brahmanar Brahmavadibi Abhishecha Nikanyasmai Ajahru Sarvato Jana. The learned Brahmins, who were very attached to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, then arranged for the king's coronation. People from all directions collected all the different paraphernalia for the ceremony. Thus, everything was complete. Sarat samudra girayo nagagava kagamriga Dyokshiti sarvabhutani samajahurur upayanam. All the rivers, seas, hills, mountains, serpents, cows, birds, animals, heavenly planets, the earthly planet, and all other living entities collected various presentations according to their ability to offer the king. Sobhishikta Maharaja Suvasa Sadvat Alankara Sadvalankrita Patnyarchi Patnyarchi Shalankritaya Virejegnir Ivapara. Thus the great King Pṛthu, exquisitely dressed with garments and ornaments, was coronated and placed on the throne. The king and his wife, Archie, who was also exquisitely ornamented, appeared exactly like fire. Interesting. Fire. Tasmai jahara dhanado haimam vira varasanam varuna salilam sravam patram shashi prabham. The great sage continued, My dear Vidura, Kuvera presented the great king Pṛthu with a golden throne. The demigod Varuna presented him with an umbrella that constantly sprayed fine particles of water and was as brilliant as the moon. Vayuscha valavyajane dharma kirti mayim srajam indra kiritam utkrishtam dandam samyamanam yama. The demigod of air Vayu presented King Pṛthu with 2 whisks, chamars of hair. The king of religion, Dharma, presented him with a flower garland, which would expand his fame. The king of heaven, Indra, presented him with a valuable helmet. And the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, presented him with a scepter with which to rule the world. What's a scepter? An ornamented staff carried by rulers on ceremonial occasions as a symbol of sovereignty. Okay. Brahma mayam varma bharati haram uttamam hari sudarshanam chakram tatpatnyavyahatang shriyam. Lord Brahma presented King Pṛthu with a protective garment made of spiritual knowledge. Bharati, Saraswati, the wife of Brahma, gave him a transcendental necklace. Lord Vishnu presented him with a Sudarshan disc, and Lord Vishnu's wife, the goddess of fortune, gave him imperishable opulences. Purport. All the demigods presented various gifts to King Pṛthu. Hari, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead known as Apindra in the heavenly planets, presented the king with a Sudarshan disc. It should be understood that this Sudarshan disc is not exactly the same type of Sudarshan disc used by the personality of Godhead, Krishna or Vishnu. Since Maharaj Pṛthu was a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's power, the Sudarshan disc given to him represented the partial power of the original Sudarshan disc. Dasha Chandram Asingrudra Shata Chandram Tatambika Somamrita Mayan Ashvangs Tvashta Rupashrayam Ratam. Lord Shiva presented him with a sword within a sheath marked with 10 moons, and his wife, the goddess Durga, presented him with a shield marked with 100 moons. The moon demigod presented him with horses made of nectar, and the demigod Vishvakarma presented him with a very beautiful chariot. Agni Raja Gavam Chapam Surya Rashmi Mayam Yishun Bhupaduke Yoga Mayo Dyo Pushpa Valim Anvaham. The demigod of fire, Agni, presented him with a bow made of the horns of goats and cows. The sun god presented him with arrows as brilliant as sunshine. The predominating deity of Purloka presented him with slippers full of mystic power. The demigod from outer space brought him presentations of flowers again and again. The demigods from outer space, they must have brought flowers from like all sorts of different planets and stuff. I'm curious what the shoes were like. Purport. This verse describes that the king's slippers were invested with mystic powers. Thus, as Paduke Yogamayo. Thus, as soon as the king placed his feet in the slippers, they would immediately carry him wherever he desired. Whoa! Mystic yogis can transfer themselves from one place to another, whenever they desire. A similar power was invested in the slippers of King Pṛthu. That is so cool. Natyam sugitam vadritram antardhanam chakechara rishayas chashisha satya samudra shankamatmajam. The demigods who always travel in outer space gave King Pṛthu the arts to perform dramas, sing songs, play musical instruments, and disappear at his will. The great sages also offered him infallible blessings. The ocean offered him a conch shell produced from the ocean. Sindhava parvata nadyo ratavitir mahatmana sutota magado vandi tangstotum upatastire. The seas, mountains, and rivers gave him room to drive his chariot without impediments. And a sutta, a maghada, and a vandi offered prayers and praises. They all presented themselves before him to perform their respective duties. Sutta, let's see what these. A sutta is a professional who offers praises. A maghada is a professional bard. And a vandi is a professional who offers prayers. Aren't those all like the same thing? I guess they must be different though, in some way. Subtle differences. Well, I guess praises and prayers are different. And a bard. What is a bard actually? A poet, traditionally one reciting epics and associated with a particular oral tradition. Okay. Yeah, they must have specialities, all three of them. Stavakang starabi pritya priturvainya pratapavan megha nirhrataya vacha prahasan idam abravit. Thus, when the greatly powerful King Pṛthu, the son of Vain, saw the professionals before him, to congratulate them, he smiled, and with the gravity of the vibrating sounds of the clouds, he spoke as follows. Pṛthuruvacha Bhosuta he magada somya Bhosuta he magada somya bandil Loke dhuna spashta gunasya me syat Kimashrayo me stava eshayo jatam Mamaya bhuvam pitata girova. I just want to send this to my friend Chandra. One second. There, okay. King Pṛthu said, O gentle Sutta, Magadha and other devotees offering prayers. Let me reread this. King Pṛthu said, O gentle Sutta, Magadha, and other devotee offering prayers, the qualities of which you have spoken are not distinct in me. Why then should you praise me for all these qualities when I do not shelter these features? I do not wish for these words meant for me to go in vain, but it is better that they be offered to someone else. Purport. The prayers and praises by the Sutta, Magadha, and Vandi all explains the godly qualities of Maharaj Pṛthu, for he was a Shaktavesh incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the qualities were not yet manifest, however, King Pṛthu very humbly asked why the devotees should praise him with such exalted words. He did not want anyone to offer him prayers or glorify him unless he possessed the real qualities of which they spoke. The offering of prayers was certainly appropriate, for he was an incarnation of Godhead, but he warned that one should not be accepted as an incarnation of the personality of Godhead without having the godly qualities. At the present moment, there are many so-called incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but these are merely fools and rascals whom people accept as incarnations of God, although they have no godly qualities. King Pṛthu desired that his real characteristics in the future might justify such words of praise. Although there was no fault in the prayers offered, Pṛthu Maharaj indicated that such prayers should not be offered to an unfit person who pretends to be an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tasmat parokshe smar upashuttanyalam karishyata stotram apicha vacha Satuttama shloka gunanuvade jugupsitam nastavayanti sabhya. Once again. O gentle reciters, offer such prayers in due course of time, when the qualities of which you have spoken actually manifest themselves in me. The gentle who offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not attribute such qualities to a human being who does not actually have them. Purport. Gentle devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead know perfectly well who is God and who is not. Non-devotee impersonalists, however, who have no idea of what God is and who never offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are always interested in accepting a human being as God and offering such prayers to him. This is the difference between a devotee and a demon. Demons manufacture their own gods, or a demon himself claims to be God, following in the footsteps of Ravan and Hiranyakashipu. Although Pṛthu Maharaj was factually an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he rejected those praises because the qualities of the Supreme Person were not yet manifest in him. He wanted to stress that one who does not actually possess these qualities should not try to engage his followers and devotees in offering him glory for them, even though these qualities might be manifest in the future. If a man who does not factually possess the attributes of a great personality engages his followers in praising him with the expectation that such attributes will develop in the future, that sort of praise is actually an insult. Mahargunan atmani kartumisha kastavakaistavayates satopi tesya bhavishyan iti vipralabdho janavahasan kumatir naveta. How could an intelligent man competent enough to possess such exalted qualities allow his followers to praise him as if he did not actually have them? Praising a man by saying that if he were educated, he might have become a great scholar or a great personality is nothing but a process of cheating. A foolish person who agrees to accept such praise does not know that such words simply insult him. Purport. Pṛthu Maharaj was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Lord Brahma and other demigods had already testified when they had presented the king with many heavenly gifts. Because he had just been coronated, however, he could not manifest his godly qualities in action. Therefore, he was not willing to accept the praise of the devotees. So-called incarnations of Godhead should therefore take lessons from the behavior of King Pṛthu. Demons without godly qualities should not accept false praise from their followers. Prabhavo hyatmana stotram jugupsantyapi vishruta rimanta paramodhara paurusham vavigarhitam. As a person with a sense of honor and magnanimity does not like to hear about his abominable actions, a person who is very famous and powerful does not like to hear himself praised. Vayam tvadvidita loke suttadyapi varimabhi karmabhi katamatmanam gapayishyama balavat. King Pṛthu continued, "My dear devotees," headed by Sutta, Just now I am not very famous for my personal activities, because I have not done anything praiseworthy you could glorify. Therefore, how could I engage you in praising my activities exactly like children? Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 15th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled King Pṛthu's Appearance and Coronation. Wow, we started like half an hour late and we finished 5 minutes early. Praise of King Pṛthu by the professional reciters. Did they just not heed his words? Let's see what we're reading in the next chapter. Chapter 16. Okay. The bards glorify Pṛthu Maharaj. Then King Pṛthu manifests the qualities of the demigods. Tomorrow also looks like a short chapter. Let's see. Every day I go into... How do I... The heck? That's so strange. Oh, there. Every day I copy and paste the chapter, and then I see how many words we have to read. So today was 3,930. And tomorrow... Anyhow, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Ganta Vikagiri Dhari, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmar, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmar, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmar, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmar, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmar, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Mahabhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Kshetra Mandal, Gaura Mandal, Braja Mandal, Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Radhakund Shamakund Ki Jai, Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Pṛthu Maharaj Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashaja, Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Dandavat pranams. Court poets with connotation of modifying the recitation. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Shakespeare is also a bard. All right, Hari Bol. See you all tomorrow. That is a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Who is Sunita's mother? I don't think it was explained anywhere who Sunita's mother is. Anyhow, if anybody knows the answer to that, we can search it. Who is Sunita's mother? In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Let's spell Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Okay, who is the wife of Pṛthu? Who is the wife of Pṛthu? Okay, so I'm not 100% sure if this is the answer, but Chandrasena? No. No. I don't know. Does it explain here? No, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Anyhow, if anybody knows, you can. All right, Jai Shri Radhe.